I thought we already had one. I mean, even though it's defunct. I mean,
Let her clear this up.
Yeah, can we use
MJ?
that same one with a new number?
The one that's there has been dissolved. You'd have to readopt.
The ordinance has been dissolved?
You'd have to readopt it by ordinance to create it
The
again.
commission was dissolved.
Right, but what about the ordinance that placed the commission?
You need to rewrite it.
You'd have to
Okay, so we can't just use that and give it a new number?
No, you need to rewrite it.
Okay.
You didn't write it word for word, but put a number on it.
Okay, we're just giving it a number.
That's basically what we'll be doing.
Any other discussion? Okay, there's a motion and a second to have the city attorney draw up an ordinance to establish a auditorium commission. Let's do a roll call vote.
Ms. Schneider?
Come back to me. I'm just...
Doesn't work that way.
Start over there. Oh, God. I want to save the auditorium, whatever it'll take. So...
Yes or no?
I guess.
We'll take that as a yes.
Is I guess a yes?
Yes.
Ms. Zeller?
No.
Mr. DeVito?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
No.
Ms. Blankenship?
Yes.
Mr. Brammer?
Yes.
4-2, ma'am.
Okay, motion passes. It's in your court. Okay, that puts us to number 2 under new business, a request from St. Anne's Catholic Church youth to sell wreaths in Basin Spring Park. Need a motion to discuss.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? She's in here.
Why on earth is the state of Arkansas involved in city auditoriums? I mean, how could they possibly care?
I'm sure it's got something to do with tax money.
No?
Well, this isn't using any tax money.
Council members, we have a request from St. Anne's Catholic Youth. You have had a letter in your mailbox. They're raising money for about 30 young people and adult chaperones to go to the World Youth Day in 2011 in Madrid, Spain. And they've asked to be allowed to sell Christmas wreaths in the Basin Spring Park on December 4th. They want to set up a tent and work from 2 to 5 p.m. I just wanted you all to have knowledge of it and give your consent or blessing, because they are doing it for profit to raise money for their youth group.
Ms. Blankenship?
When I first got this, I really didn't understand why it was coming to the council. My first thought it would have gone through the Parks Department. So I asked the Parks Department about it, and they said, I got a letter from Bruce, and it says, nonprofits and religious groups are allowed to sell items which are related to their cause or religion. We do not provide electricity to any vendor or group, and their booth size is limited to 16 square foot and no tents. So that's what already happens in the park. So I wasn't sure why it was coming here.
Ms. Seller?
Well, that's my question. Isn't this a matter for the Parks Commission? Because they have control of what goes on in Basin Park. So why are we getting involved in this?
MJ?
You don't have to be involved, but once again, it's another one of those things that if these people set up and start selling things to raise money, there's going to be a fuss. And if you all know about it ahead of time and it has your okay, then hopefully the fuss will not be so big.
Okay.
Want to
Okay.
bet?
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to avoid problems. If
Okay.
you all just want to let it go, let it go.
I'm for fussless.
Should look at parks deal with it.
I support fussless.
Okay, so now that everybody's informed you, are you okay with this? Mr. Weaver?
Not to open the can of proverbial worms, but if you okay this for one group, you may be okaying it for multiple groups. You should think about that issue before you take on this issue.
Can we motion to send it to Parks Commission?
Mr. Berry?
Well, it goes right back to the other question, Ms. Blankenship and Ms. Zellerat. I mean, isn't this a Parks decision?
Mr. Weaver?
I mean, we've been informed. I mean, thank you.
I think you certainly can put it back, especially given the litigation or the discussions that took place at this table over the past few months in regard to selling. You kind of dictated that the parks, even though this is different, allegedly, in that it's nonprofit, you've kind of turned over things to the parks. And I would recommend that it may very well be an issue that should be before them as opposed to you.
Make a motion that we refer this back to the Parks.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
Chickens.
Number 3 is a discussion of the city policy on domestic partner benefits. Need a motion to discuss.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Okay. Last week, Lamont and Diane and I drove down in a mad dash to the Municipal League to meet with their insurance board. They had requested that I come down and speak to them and explain to them the letter that was sent down from this table. Their only question really coming back to us is whether I was there to represent the city or the entire state. And having gone through other cities interfering with our business, I emphatically told them that the only people that I could represent was this council table. So they said they were going to take the matter under consideration and they'll let us know within 10 days. Now, on the heels of that, we have a city employee right now that is going through a catastrophic illness with his domestic partner. Because of the way that our policy is set up, he does not get the same benefits that our employees that are married get. He would not be able to get bereavement time or care for family business if anything does happen, God forbid. And considering that we did vote in the DPR and considering that you guys did draft a letter to try to change the mind of the Municipal League, I think that that needs to be looked at and it needs to be changed in our policy. So you have a resolution in front of you that was drafted by Lamont to address that. Ms. Schneider?
Well, this only makes sense, having read through all of this and the communications, to make a motion that we give the resolution a number.
MJ, you got a few more of those guys?
Make a motion that we give this
Hang on, hang on,
resolution
hang
a
on.
number, and go from there.
And read it is correct.
Give it a number and read it. Okay, give it a number and read it.
I'll
As
second
opposed to
that.
going from there.
The reason that this one looks different than the one that you got in the email is I took a lot of the space out of it and made it a one-page document instead of a two-page document. I changed no wording.
You guys want to take a
Sorry,
minute and
ma'am.
look at it before we vote? Because once we vote and read it, that's it.
Well, I'm grateful for whoever found out that we hadn't covered these things, because if it was within our capacity to do it, I'm sorry that we didn't do it earlier.
It was one of our department heads that caught it.
Well, I was just assumed it was already done.
Is this actually going to modify our policy to actually allow for this, or is this just trying to get to that point?
No, this will modify our policy to give the same benefits,
Not
Exception of
insurance.
Insurance.
right, with exception of the insurance.
It doesn't clarify that in it. Not that I see.
It does by spelling out exactly what we're changing.
Excuse me? Madam Mayor?
Do you have one?
Yeah, I have one.
Go ahead.
Well, regardless of whether it does or not, we can't offer it, so it's kind of a moot point.
No, if you give a right to insurance, you give a right to insurance. You'll have to go out and find insurance.
And which line are you talking about?
10 days. They said within 10 days.
Is it in the whereas?
No, wait, where are we here with this? What is it?
This
What is
doesn't
under
exclude insurance that I see.
I mean,
Maybe you see the wording there. I don't see the wording there that
No,
would
it
exclude the insurance. And insurance is a benefit extended by the city, and it is covered in the city handbook, or at least it was the last time I looked.
Mhm.
And you're extending all rights from the handbook to the domestic partner. Therefore, you would have to extend insurance if you have to, based on the current book, to a husband, wife, child, or other family member. And it's been determined before at this table that trying to get that insurance is either very cost prohibitive or impossible.
In other words, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Okay, if we took out the whereas the city has recently petitioned the Arkansas Municipal League, et cetera, and also takes out part of that sentence, whereas the city believes that in light of these actions, it is appropriate, and just say, whereas it is appropriate that the city's personnel policy be interpreted. Is that what you're saying, that we should take out that middle?
No.
Oh.
Whereas is only legislative history. It's not law. The law is your sections. Section 1 does not exclude the benefit of insurance.
And so we have to have that worded that way.
Okay.
This does not include insurance.
You would have to if you intend not to include insurance. If that is a covered benefit in the handbook, which last time, as I said, I looked at it, it was. It dictates who in the city gets insurance.
Could you alter this to spell that out?
I don't know that I can right at the moment without looking at the handbook for a while. And I understand the intent and the desire to get the other coverage, but I don't know that we can do that.
What if we allow you until the next meeting? By then, I should hear back from the municipal league.
And that probably, if we get the right answer from the municipal league, that would certainly.
Then you'll know where to go with this.
Yes.
And we should.
It could make it a moot point if we get the right answer from the
Right.
municipal league.
Ms. Schneider?
Okay, not necessarily because we've been with Municipal League, that doesn't mean we'll be with them forever. So in section 1, at the end there, if we added basically the phrase or the line, aside from individual insurance coverage policy, doesn't that leave the insurance part up to them? I mean, if we have insurance coverage that will do it, fine. If not, we're not promising they're going to have it.
Then you're creating potentially two classes of employee. I think there's a problem. I think you really need to look at it, or let me look at it, and maybe see that the municipal league honestly comes down on the side that this table has requested them to.
But like I said, they aren't necessarily our insurance forever. So what happens if the next one doesn't have it, and we've got it included in this?
Then you're going to be.
That's what I'm saying. We need a line that segregates the insurance company policy from what
Well-
our desires are for actions for sick leave and whatever.